For 100 years the Zoroth Empire prepared for one goal. Their leaders, warriors, and scholars believed Earth was the final step in their long chain of conquest. To them, humans were only a young race. They thought humans were clever but not disciplined, creative but not united. The Zoroth were sure that one strong strike would bring Earth under their rule. Every decade the Zoroth High Council gathered in the Hall of Command. The hall was vast, filled with banners of old victories and glowing charts of star systems already taken. Generals spoke of humans as if they were insects, weak yet stubborn. One general said that humans fought like wild beasts but had no order. Another claimed that their weapons were outdated, good only for small wars between their own nations. The council listened and agreed. Earth would fall quickly once the invasion began. Training grounds stretched across entire planets within Zoroth space. Soldiers marched every day under artificial skies. They carried rifles powered by crystal energy and drilled with precision. They fought in arenas that imitated Earth's mountains, forests, and cities. For them, it was not practice but a promise of coming glory. They dreamed of landing on Earth, breaking human defenses, and raising the Zoroth flag above human cities. Teachers told young cadets stories of Earth's wars. They spoke of human nations fighting each other in endless conflict. To the cadets, this seemed foolish. Why would a species waste strength on internal battles when stronger enemies waited beyond the stars? The cadets laughed at the idea of humans fighting with sticks and old machines compared to the shining armor of Zoroth legions. Yet there was unease among a few older voices. Some scholars warned that humans had a strange pattern in their history. Each time they were pushed to the edge, they adapted. Each time they faced a stronger foe, they survived by finding new ways. These scholars spoke softly in the council, saying Earth might not be as easy as it seemed. But their words were drowned by the pride of generals who trusted in numbers and tradition. The Empire built fleets across a century. Massive ships were shaped in the dark of space, their hulls lined with weapons. Carriers held thousands of fighters. Command vessels shone like silver giants. The fleet grew larger than any ever assembled before. To the Zoroth, it was the peak of their power, the result of patience and perfect planning. Every simulation of invasion ended with human defeat. Zoroth mines built virtual battles where human ships burned and human armies broke within hours. They repeated these victories until they no longer questioned them. For the young soldiers, the invasion was not a battle but a celebration waiting to happen. They imagined humans kneeling in surrender, their cities quiet, their voices silenced by the Empire. The High Commander of the fleet, a stern figure named Varos, spoke to his officers before launch. His voice echoed through the Grand Chamber. He told them that they were the end of human defiance. He promised that Earth would become the new capital of the Empire's outer territories. His speech filled the soldiers with pride and certainty. They believed no power in the galaxy could resist them. Even their weapons were crafted for this invasion. Special bombs were designed to break human communication networks. Armored suits were shaped to resist human bullets and fire. Swarms of machines were programmed to choke human skies. Nothing was left to chance. To the Zoroth, humans were a simple problem already solved. And so, the Empire waited for the right moment. Their ships gathered at the edge of Earth's star system, hidden behind moons and belts of rock. For 100 years they had trained, studied, and prepared. Generations of soldiers grew up with one purpose only, to march upon Earth. In their hearts they believed Earth was already theirs. They believed the humans would fall in days, perhaps even hours. The thought of failure never crossed their minds. The Zoroth were proud, perhaps too proud. They could not imagine that their greatest enemy was not weakness but the strength they refused to see. As the fleets prepared to move, silence spread across the command halls. The invasion was near. The last orders were given, and the engines of war roared to life. The stars around them glowed as ships turned toward the blue planet waiting across the void. The Zoroth had waited for a century to strike. They carried weapons that could shatter continents. They carried pride that weighed heavier than steel. They believed history was already written. Yet in the darkness of space, unseen by their eyes, the truth waited. Earth was not what they thought. The clock of war began to tick, and the first steps toward destiny were taken. While the Zoroth Empire sharpened its blades in secret, Earth lived on without knowledge of the coming storm. People walked through crowded cities, children played in parks, and workers moved through factories. Life was ordinary on the surface, yet far beneath that calm was another world. Humanity had not been as blind as the Zoroth believed. Quiet watchers stood guard in silence, waiting for shadows from the stars. Decades earlier, the first signs of strange movement in distant space had reached human observatories. Faint signals, almost hidden among cosmic noise, carried patterns too sharp to be natural. At first, the world's scientists thought it was chance. But after years of study, the truth became hard to ignore. Something was out there, something organized and powerful. Governments acted quietly. They feared that open news would bring panic or endless debates. Instead, secret councils formed, uniting rivals who would never have sat together otherwise. Beneath deserts and under frozen mountains, deep bunkers were built. They were not shelters for the powerful but vaults of defense. Engineers designed rail cannons strong enough to pierce ships in orbit. Researchers built drones the size of insects and others the size of whales, all waiting in hidden chambers. Laboratories lit up with discoveries, from energy fields to weapons that bent the rules of physics. It was not one nation but many, working in silence, watching the skies. In the oceans, fleets carried more than ordinary ships. Some vessels were disguised as cargo carriers but carried missile silos within. Some submarines were built so deep they could hide for years, waiting for a signal. Even the skies of Earth had guardians. Satellites circled above, outwardly simple machines but holding secret weapons and hidden sensors. Humanity had learned to prepare without showing strength. The common person did not know the details, but they felt it in small ways. Space programs grew faster than before. Universities trained more engineers. Small inventions appeared that hinted at bigger projects behind closed doors. Farmers used new machines, pilots flew stronger aircraft, and doctors worked with advanced tools, all results of quiet research meant first for defense. Through the years, humans argued and struggled among themselves as always. Nations disagreed, leaders clashed, and old rivalries burned. Yet, in the deepest rooms of command centers, a silent agreement held firm. If a threat came from the stars, Earth would stand as one. No enemy beyond the skies could be allowed to divide them. There were secret bases on the moon too, hidden beneath layers of dust. At first, they were only observatories, but over time they grew into fortresses with power generators and shield arrays. Some astronauts sent there never returned to Earth. They lived in silence, guardians on the edge of space. These outposts watched the void with long-range scanners, waiting for a fleet that one day would appear. Not all preparations were machines and weapons. Humanity prepared in spirit as well. Soldiers were trained not only in combat but in survival under any condition. Special units were taught to fight without supplies, to adapt to deserts, jungles, frozen wastelands, and city ruins. They were not told exactly why, only that one day the world might call on them for the greatest defense. They carried that weight in silence. In research halls, scientists studied human history to find patterns. They knew Earth's greatest strength was not size or numbers but the ability to adapt quickly. The story of humanity was one of endless survival. Whenever pressed to the edge, humans had changed themselves, their tools, and their ways of thinking. This lesson guided every invention. Every weapon was designed not to be perfect, but to be flexible, to shift the moment the enemy revealed a new trick. Above all, the leaders of Earth understood that secrecy was their greatest shield. The Zoroth would see Earth as weak, and that illusion would buy humans time. Open displays of strength might invite earlier conflict, but silence would make the enemy careless. That silence became Earth's most powerful weapon. In the heart of Earth's defense network, hidden deep beneath mountains, the Central Watch kept constant vigilance. Screens glowed with maps of the solar system, tracking every rock and signal. The watchers there were sworn to never speak of what they saw. They passed down their duty from one generation to the next. For them, guarding humanity was not a job but a life. And so Earth waited. While laughter filled its cities and songs rose in its streets, machines turned in the dark. While children grew under blue skies, soldiers drilled in secret tunnels. While the Zoroth sharpened blades of pride, humanity sharpened blades of patience. When the alien fleet finally stirred near the moon, Earth did not tremble as the Zoroth expected. The hidden guardians felt no surprise. Warnings had been passed for decades, and defenses had long been ready. To the Zoroth, it would appear sudden, as if humans rose from nowhere with impossible strength. But the truth was different. The truth was that humanity had been ready for a century. Beneath the quiet of everyday life was a species that had prepared for the storm, a species that had survived fire, plague, and endless wars among themselves. They were not blind. They were not weak. They were waiting. The blue planet seemed calm from above, but deep within it, a quiet strength waited to be unleashed. The day finally came when the Zoroth fleet reached Earth's skies. For a century they had prepared, and now their engines thundered across the void. From the shadows of the outer system, the great ships slid forward, massive like floating cities. Their black hulls swallowed starlight, and their weapon towers glowed faintly with stored energy. From the surface of the moon, the first human outposts saw the shadows appear against the stars. Silent alarms whispered across secret channels. Humanity had waited for this moment. The Zoroth fleet was enormous. Carriers stretched longer than mountain ranges. Warships lined up in precise rows, their wings gleaming with sharp edges. Command vessels, shaped like silver spears, led the charge at the front. To the Zoroth, this was a show of strength. They wanted Earth to look up and see not stars but the Empire's shadow. They wanted fear before the first shot was fired. At first, ordinary people on Earth saw strange lights in the night sky. Some thought they were meteors, others thought they were tricks of satellites. News channels captured images of bright objects moving near the moon. Questions filled the air, but official voices said little. In the secret chambers of Earth's defense councils, however, there was no confusion. The Watchers had confirmed it. The Zoroth had arrived. Inside the flagship of the Zoroth, Commander Varro stood before a glowing map of Earth. His officers saluted as he raised his hand. His voice was steady, filled with pride. Today, he declared, we take the jewel of the system. Humanity has no power to resist us. Within hours they will bow, and the Empire will claim what is rightfully ours. His soldiers cheered, their voices echoing through the steel halls. To them, the battle was already won. The first act of the Zoroth was not fire but words. They broadcasted messages toward Earth on every open channel. Their language was translated by machines, sharp and commanding. The message was simple: surrender within minutes or face destruction. They expected silence, or perhaps cries of fear. They imagined leaders begging for mercy. What they received instead was unexpected. A calm human voice answered the broadcast. The message was short. This is Earth. We hear you. Then silence. No panic, no surrender, no begging. Just calm words, steady as stone. That silence unsettled some of the Zoroth officers. They expected humans to show weakness. Instead, Earth sounded like a hunter waiting in the dark. Varos dismissed their worries. He believed it was false confidence, nothing more. He ordered the fleet to prepare the first strike. Meanwhile, Earth's hidden defenses stirred to life. Deep under mountains, Screens flickered as operators locked onto alien ships. In the oceans, silent submarines shifted their positions. On the moon, hidden bases powered up their shield grids. Satellites that had once looked like harmless weather machines began to unfold panels of strange design. Humanity did not rush. They moved with precision, as if they had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. From orbit, the Zoroth saw only what they expected, a blue planet, fragile and unguarded. They did not see the weapons waiting beneath clouds, beneath seas, and beneath stone. They did not see the unity of a world that had hidden its strength for a century. The first wave of Zoroth ships descended toward low orbit. Their engines burned bright, carving fire across the sky. Civilians below saw streaks of light, some pointing in fear, others staring in silence. But in the command centers of Earth, eyes were calm. They had known this day would come. Their time of waiting was over. Varos gave the order for the opening strike. Weapons charged, and energy beams prepared to fall upon Earth's defenses. The Zoroth believed the battle would be over in hours. Their minds could not imagine anything else. Then something strange happened. As the first Zoroth cruisers moved into formation near the moon, signals flickered across their systems. Screens glitched, targeting sensors froze, and navigation began to wobble. Pilots struggled with controls, shouting in confusion. Varos demanded reports, but the answers came broken and unclear. From Earth's hidden bases, the Watchers smiled in silence. The first step of humanity's plan had worked. Invisible waves had been released, flooding the void with pulses that tangled alien systems. While the Zoroth trained for a century against human bullets and rockets, they had never trained against this. Still, the Zoroth pushed forward, forcing their systems to reboot. Their pride did not allow them to retreat. They wanted to strike, to prove their superiority. But with every second, Earth's defenses were shifting into place. Rail cannons locked on targets. Drone swarms unfolded their wings in hidden chambers. Submarines readied missiles beneath the seas. Humanity had been quiet for so long, but now the silence was turning into fire. The Zoroth fleet hovered near the moon, preparing to fire their first shots. On Earth, defenses stood ready, hidden under layers of patience. The void between them felt heavy, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. The invasion had begun, but it would not unfold as the Zoroth had dreamed. The storm they thought they would unleash was about to turn against them. The Zoroth fleet moved into final formation. Their silver hulls gleamed against the black sky, weapons glowing faintly with stored power. On the flagship, Commander Varos raised his hand. With one gesture, the order was given. The invasion of Earth had officially begun. The first beams shot downward. Blinding lines of energy cut through space, striking at Earth's upper orbit. A human satellite burst apart in silence, glowing like a broken star. Another was shattered seconds later. To the Zoroth, this was proof of dominance. They believed the human defenses were already falling. But on Earth, calm voices guided the response. In underground bunkers, operators leaned over consoles, their hands steady. Phase 1 complete, one said softly. A coded signal raced across hidden networks. Far above, satellites that had looked harmless for decades began to change. Panels opened like wings, and hidden weapons came alive. The second wave of Zoroth fire met an unexpected wall. Invisible fields shimmered into place, bending the beams into harmless sparks. The alien gunners stared in confusion. Their weapons had never been blocked like this. They fired again and again, but the same result followed. Their energy attacks melted away before reaching the surface. Commander Varos frowned but pressed forward. He ordered missile strikes. Dozens of warheads streaked toward Earth like falling stars. They split into hundreds of smaller fragments, designed to overwhelm any defense. Yet as they descended, the skies lit up. From hidden silos, rail cannons launched projectiles faster than sound. Each shot pierced a warhead, shattering it into fragments before it touched the atmosphere. In the oceans, submarines joined the defense, sending counter-missiles into the dark sky. From below, civilians saw nothing but streaks of light and thunder in the distance. Some thought it was a meteor shower. Others prayed silently. They did not know that their planet was locked in the greatest battle of its history, a battle fought not only with weapons but with patience and preparation. The Zoroth pressed harder. Squadrons of fighters burst from their carriers, engines glowing like fireflies. They raced toward Earth's upper orbit, ready to sweep aside any resistance. Yet they were met with swarms of machines unlike anything they had faced. Human drones poured out from hidden stations, small but swift. They moved like living storms, weaving between enemy fighters. Their weapons fired in short bursts, tearing through alien armor. The sky turned into chaos. Alien ships collided with swarms of drones, beams clashing with rail fire. Explosions flared, casting light across the dark side of the moon. In command rooms deep on Earth, human leaders watched the screens with cold focus. They gave no speeches, no celebrations. Only orders. Their voices were calm, like chess players moving pieces. The Zoroth were confused. For 100 years they had trained for this war. They had prepared against human rockets, tanks, and aircraft. But what they faced was different. It was sharper, faster, unpredictable. The humans were not reacting with fear. They were answering with precision. By the second minute of battle, the first Zoroth cruiser exploded under a storm of drone fire. By the third minute, a battleship lost its shields to a direct rail strike from Earth's hidden batteries. Varos shouted orders, demanding tighter formations. His officers obeyed, but their eyes betrayed doubt. The humans were not breaking. They were fighting with a strength no simulation had predicted. On Earth's surface, the hidden soldiers finally received their orders. Special units moved through underground tunnels, preparing to launch counterattacks should any alien dropships descend. Fighter pilots climbed into cockpits, their engines warming silently. They had been waiting their entire lives for this moment. The Zoroth grew desperate. They turned their full firepower against the moon bases, hoping to cripple human defenses quickly. Their beams hammered down, tearing through layers of dust and stone. For a moment, it seemed the bases would collapse. But then, massive shield arrays unfolded, glowing like suns. The beams struck, but the shields held. From beneath the surface, human cannons fired back, punching holes in Zoroth formations. Varro slammed his hand against the command table. "Impossible," he growled. But the evidence filled every screen. His fleet, the pride of a century of training, was losing control. The humans were not scrambling blindly. They were orchestrating every move, turning the Zoroth strength into weakness. From Earth's command center, a single coded message spread across the defense network. One word: advance. Suddenly, the humans shifted from defense to attack. Drone swarms surged forward, rail fire intensified, and hidden satellites unleashed powerful pulses of energy. The Zoroth fleet shook under the storm. Ships that had stood unchallenged across the galaxy now cracked and burned within minutes. The first strike was no longer the Zoroth's. It belonged to Earth. The battle that had been promised for a century was unraveling in minutes. The invaders had believed they would break humanity with their opening attack. Instead, their own strike had opened the door for Earth's hidden fury. Commander Varro stared at the chaos outside, his pride battling with fear. He had told his people the invasion would last hours, perhaps days at most. Yet deep inside, a terrible thought began to grow. What if it would not last even that long? The void above Earth turned into a storm of fire. The Zoroth fleet, proud and confident only moments earlier, now faced a storm unlike anything they had imagined. Beams, missiles, drones, and rail shots crossed space in every direction. Explosions lit the dark like sudden suns, and the silence of the stars filled with chaos. The first minute struck like a hammer. Human drones swarmed the alien fighters in numbers too great to count. They darted like insects, but each carried precision weapons. Zoroth fighters tried to form lines, but every line broke as drones sliced through them. Explosions tore across their wings. Pilots shouted for orders, but no command could calm the storm. By the end of the first minute, entire squadrons had vanished. In the second minute, the human rail cannons on Earth and the Moon opened full fire. The soundless blasts of metal tore through the void at impossible speed. One Zoroth cruiser lost its shield with a single strike. Another split apart when two projectiles pierced its spine. Pieces of broken ships drifted across space, spinning slowly while human drones used them as cover for the next attack. The Zoroth had trained for resistance, but not for weapons so sharp, so sudden, and so unrelenting. By the third minute, panic touched the Zoroth command. On the flagship, Commander Varos shouted orders, demanding that his fleet regroup. But his voice was lost in the storm. Communication lines were breaking under the interference pulses released by Earth's hidden satellites. Orders reached ships late, twisted, or not at all. Captains acted on their own, turning formations into chaos. A command fleet built over a century was falling apart in mere minutes. The fourth minute brought disaster to the command vessels themselves. A wave of human drones broke through escort lines and hurled themselves at the flagship's shield. Small as they were, they struck again and again, overloading its defenses. At the same time, a rail shot from the Moon pierced the side of another command ship, splitting it into two burning halves. Zoroth officers, once so proud, watched as their strongest ships collapsed before their eyes. Varos gripped the command table with both hands. His mind screamed against the truth, but his eyes could not deny it. This was not a battle. It was an unraveling. Every tactic he had prepared was breaking apart before it even reached the field. For 100 years they had studied human wars, but they had studied the past, not the future. They had trained for rockets and old machines. They had not trained for this. By the fifth minute, fear spread faster than any order. Zoroth soldiers who had trained all their lives felt doubt for the first time. Their simulations had promised easy victory, yet reality was turning into nightmare. Fighters broke formation, some fleeing into the dark, others colliding with allies in their rush to escape the storm. Pride, the very core of the Zoroth Empire, cracked under the weight of human firepower. On Earth, the defenders did not cheer. In hidden bunkers and command rooms, voices stayed calm. Every move was measured, every strike planned. Humanity knew this was not just a battle but a warning to the stars. They could not waste the moment. Their strength had to be shown fully, without hesitation. By the sixth minute, the Zoroth fleet was no longer a fleet. It was a scattered collection of burning wrecks and broken signals. Command ships were gone. Carriers drifted helplessly, their decks torn apart. Fighters, once countless, now fled like sparks blown by wind. The proud armada that had trained for a century lasted only 6 minutes against Earth's hidden power. Commander Varos stared at the burning skies on his screens. His pride shattered. His voice trembled for the first time in his life. He gave the only order left. Retreat. But retreat was no longer simple. Human drones chased the fleeing ships, striking their engines. Rail fire tore into their paths, forcing them to scatter even more. Some ships vanished into hyperspace in blind panic, leaving behind allies to burn. Others fled into the dark, wounded and broken. Only fragments of the fleet remained, scattered across the stars like ashes. And yet, Earth did not chase too far. Humanity had shown its strength, but it did not turn the victory into endless destruction. The defenders held their fire once the enemy broke, letting the survivors flee. Earth had proven its point. To every Zoroth eye that lived to see another day, The message was clear. The 6 minutes of chaos had changed everything. For the Zoroth, it was humiliation beyond measure. For humans, it was the first true stand as a united people against the stars. The storm was over, but its echo would travel across the galaxy. As silence returned to orbit, the wrecks of alien ships drifted above the blue planet. Below, the world continued to spin, its cities still standing, its people still alive. Humanity had faced an empire and endured. In only 6 minutes, the story of Earth had been rewritten forever. The smoke of burning Zoroth ships drifted silently across the void. What had seemed like the beginning of a terrifying war had ended in mere minutes. Humanity had faced a fleet trained for a century and survived. Hidden beneath cities, mountains, and oceans, the defenders of Earth allowed themselves a quiet moment of acknowledgement. They did not cheer. Their victory was calculated, controlled, and complete. The lesson had been delivered. Across Earth, leaders gathered in secret. They were not only military commanders but scientists, engineers, and diplomats. For decades they had prepared for this day, but no plan could have predicted the precision with which humanity had won. They reviewed the battle, each strike and counter-strike recorded in detail. Lessons were noted, weaknesses corrected, and strategies preserved for the future. Though the enemy had fled, vigilance remained the priority. On the moon, hidden stations began to send new reports. Satellites that had observed the Zoroth fleet tracked every retreating ship. Humanity now knew the scope of the invasion, the size of the forces, and the technology of their enemy. Scientists began analyzing fragments of alien ships, studying materials that were stronger than anything found on Earth. Engineers plotted ways to adapt these discoveries to human technology. Even in victory, Earth's minds worked tirelessly, aware that knowledge was the greatest weapon. Submarines that had held position beneath oceans surfaced silently. Human pilots returned from patrols, their ships unharmed but engines still hot. Soldiers in underground tunnels emerged to check the surface, their eyes scanning the skies and the lands. They had defended a planet, and now they ensured nothing remained to threaten it. Their discipline remained, as always. Humanity did not celebrate with noise, but with preparation, knowing the galaxy might not forgive weakness. Across the world, scientists prepared messages for the stars. Earth was no longer a hidden blue planet. The Zoroth had learned the truth of its defenses. Humans transmitted signals carefully, sending proof of their survival and their unity. It was not a declaration of conquest but a warning: Earth was not weak. Any force that believed otherwise would find it a deadly mistake. In cities, life continued. Streets filled with people who had no knowledge of the silent war above them. They walked, worked, and lived their lives, unaware of the machines and soldiers that had just defended them. This normalcy was part of humanity's strength. The enemy had expected fear and chaos, but humans thrived even in the shadow of destruction. They had faced impossible odds and turned them into triumph, all without surrendering their way of life. The surviving Zoroth ships scattered into the darkness of space, their pride shattered. They carried back stories of a world that could not be conquered by force alone. They had underestimated the unity of humanity, the adaptability of its people, and the quiet strength of its defense. For the first time in their history, the Zoroth faced a race that could fight not only with weapons but with willpower and intelligence combined. On Earth, leaders held a silent meeting. They discussed not revenge but readiness. The Zoroth might return, or other civilizations might see weakness and attempt the same. Humanity had survived its first test from the stars, but survival alone was not enough. They would prepare for the next challenge. Every hidden base, every weapon system, and every trained soldier would remain vigilant. The planet had won, but the galaxy was wide, and dangers could arise from any corner. Children played unaware of the battle that had raged above them. Teachers taught lessons of math, science, and history, while parents went about their lives. The contrast between everyday life and the invisible war was striking. Humanity had not needed to panic to survive. Strength, intelligence, and preparation had been enough. It was a lesson to themselves as much as to any enemy. True power often hides quietly, waiting for the moment it is needed. In the aftermath, humanity's focus shifted. Engineers began integrating alien technology into research labs. Scientists studied the strategies of the Zoroth, preparing simulations for future encounters. Soldiers trained in new techniques, learning not only to fight but to predict the actions of enemies far stronger than themselves. Every department, every organization, strengthened the other. The 6 minutes of chaos had taught the value of coordination, preparation, and calm under pressure. Finally, a single broadcast was sent into space. The message was simple: Earth stands. We are not prey. We are prepared. It was a statement of fact, not of pride. The galaxy would hear that humans were a force to be reckoned with, not because of size or firepower alone, but because of their will, their adaptability, and their unity. The planet turned beneath calm skies, oceans moving quietly, winds brushing across forests, and cities continuing without pause. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. The Zoroth had believed in the ease of conquest. In 6 minutes, they learned the opposite. Earth had responded not with panic, but with strength, wisdom, and discipline. The true story of human resilience had begun to spread beyond the stars, and it would never be forgotten. The Zoroth survivors fled into the vast darkness of space. Their fleet, once proud and invincible, had been broken in 6 minutes. Burnt-out ships drifted among the stars, engines cold, shields shattered. The commanders carried one truth that would haunt their empire: Earth was not weak. The humans were not ordinary. They were dangerous in ways that could not be measured by weapons alone. As the survivors returned to the Zoroth homeworld, tales of the battle spread quickly. Officers described the speed, precision, and coordination of human defenses. They spoke of drones swarming like storms, rail fire striking with unerring accuracy, and hidden satellites that had disrupted their entire fleet. Most terrifying of all was the human will, calm and unshakable even in the face of the greatest power the Zoroth had ever brought. The High Council of the Zoroth Empire convened urgently. They listened in disbelief to the reports. For a century, the Empire had trained to conquer Earth, planning every strike, studying every weakness. Yet their knowledge had been incomplete. They had measured humans with pride and arrogance, but they had not measured their adaptability, intelligence, and unity. The Council realized they had underestimated a species that could think beyond immediate threats, that could turn a moment of invasion into a display of unmatched power. Meanwhile, on Earth, life returned to normal, yet nothing was the same. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked in silence to recover fragments of alien technology. They studied every piece of information gathered during the battle, seeking lessons that would prepare humanity for the future. Even the civilians, unaware of the scale of the war, were part of a stronger society. Education, innovation, and unity had grown in ways that the Zoroth could not see. Leaders of Earth held a global meeting, though the world did not know it. They discussed long-term strategy. Humanity had proven its strength, but they could not afford complacency. Other civilizations might take notice of the battle. Other threats might arrive, stronger than the Zoroth. Earth's preparation would continue, silently, carefully, so that the planet would remain ready. The battle was won, but the war for survival in the galaxy was only beginning. Across the universe, the story of Earth began to spread. Other species, hearing the tales from the Zoroth survivors, started to rethink their assumptions. A planet once considered easy prey had shattered the pride of a mighty empire. Humans had demonstrated something more than weapons. They had shown intelligence, unity, and courage. Where many civilizations relied solely on force, Earth had relied on preparation, adaptability, and willpower. In hidden facilities across the planet, engineers began integrating recovered alien materials into new projects. Scientists tested strategies used by the Zoroth, predicting what other civilizations might attempt in the future. Soldiers trained not only in combat but in rapid adaptation, learning to respond to threats far beyond Earth's previous experience. Humanity had learned that survival depended not on luck but on learning and planning. The children of Earth, unaware of the battle in the stars, would grow up in a world subtly changed. They would inherit a planet united and stronger than before. Every invention, every improvement, and every act of defense during the invasion had taught the world a quiet but lasting lesson: humans could endure, adapt, and triumph. They did not rely on fear or brute force alone, they relied on ingenuity, discipline, and heart. The Zoroth, humbled and cautious, never returned to Earth. Across their empire, a new respect and fear grew. They remembered the 6 minutes that had shattered their pride and destroyed their fleet. They warned other civilizations, Earth was not a prize to be taken lightly. The story of humanity's victory became a lesson in every corner of the galaxy. On Earth, life moved forward under clear skies. Oceans lapped against coasts, winds blew across plains, and cities thrived with the ordinary rhythm of human life. Yet beneath this calm, the planet had become stronger, wiser, and more united. Humanity had proven that the strength of a species is not only measured in weapons but in spirit, preparation, and the courage to act when the moment demands it. The tale of 6 minutes that changed history would remain forever. The Zoroth left as defeated invaders, carrying the lesson of Earth back to their people. Across the universe, one truth became clear: humans were not weak, humans were not prey, and Earth was a force that could not be ignored. The planet's defenders had spoken to the stars without raising a single banner. Their quiet strength had rewritten the rules of survival. And on Earth, life went on, ordinary yet extraordinary. Humanity had faced the impossible and endured. They had turned fear into focus, preparation into power, and unity into victory. The lesson of Earth was simple but absolute: any who challenged humans would face not just weapons, but the spirit of a species that refused to fall. The galaxy had learned this lesson in 6 minutes.